Can I have somebody please move that we receive the financial report? Thanks, Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Peoples. All in favour, carried 7-0. Ahmed, you've got some notes on the bottom of each page here regarding recoverable works. The TMR figure of actually a little bit higher than 2 million, is that right? Like 3.2 million?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Recoverable works and in the revenue work done this year. Based on
Maintaining a very flat line, 2 months sustainability. BRC defines sustainability, I must admit. I think all of that, but every council's obviously got a different matrix, but ours is as exhaustive as you can get. 2 months. We must be pushing the upper boundaries of that almost. At times we're getting close to ticking into 3.
yeah, Mr. Mayor, it's increasing. Close to 3, but still it's not 3.
It's 3, it's 2. No, it's very much agree. Okay, questions, please. Oh, one other point I do want to note. We want to pay particular credit to, pardon the pun, to the rates team and to staff generally. Our rates in arrears balance is out. Like the overheads and indirect costs for community care, some of the Q's been stated on these 2 key areas, but the primary reason for this fixation is I just don't like seeing people reach financial duress because they fall behind, and once they fall behind, inevitably you fall into a bit of a trap, and even if it's only $100 here and $100 there, it can be very difficult. So if you disregard, in my opinion, anything for the Sardine Creek charade thing that we're executing, which should be getting closer every day. And you know, obviously there are a few longer rates in arrears, but even that, the 3-year figure of 35,000 out of 7 million in annual rates is a tiny percentage, and the current and 1-year rates to be, I suppose we should thank Council for maintaining a fiscally responsible approach to rate setting. Our residents' ability to pay, but a proactive stance being taken by our council staff in following up on rates and helping people through that process. Summary, so well done to all in the relevant teams, and I know Damien's not here, but I'm sure somebody will pass that on to his team who helped look after. Questions, please.
From the CEO is, will we get all that work?
Are you talking about, sorry, we're still on the financials at this point. So
Oh, sorry.
the screen is on the next one, but we're not you, sorry.
No. Excuse my,
I only point that out because it's a councillor who has a conflict in that resolution.
Yeah.
But you probably could take your point back to page 187 of the agenda, because we did discuss this yesterday, the ability to do what we've budgeted for capital work. True that we're way behind, and you would suggest building and other structures and road infrastructure. Yeah, road infrastructure is flood damage, is that correct? And building would incorporate a pool, which was unsuccessful.
Definitely on buildings, probably met our target, would meet the target, because if you exclude the pool. flood damage. Budget, we're aware of, I didn't. So, in any case, we do, you can go back through all the years. Of the capital works a year.
Does that include TMR and ours?
No. TMR, it's average about 7.5 million. Last year we did exactly double what long term. Capital works. Roads, buildings, whatever, it's 15.
I'd be as forward as also to suggest that when that estimate that's the work value of the roads that A had to be completed before the expiration of the time to, and B, the QRA assessment is always, or the assessment of the value of the restoration by QRA is always substantially over the actual restoration cost. So what perhaps engineering did, would I be correct in saying, is they said, well, of the work for the event that expires this financial year, we have 27 million or whatever value to be done. We might meet the work target, but not the dollar target. Could that potentially occur?
Yes.
So is there a way?
I was just about to ask, Mr. Is there a mechanism that we need to have to
to
say that even though 6 months ago, 6 months down the track it's 25 million, and then as work comes in, financial reporting and our
New total, although we can amend the graph, so it isn't amended.
stuff buildings, so that if in the budget we said it was, we've allowed $3 million for it, we now have 85% confidence that it's 2.5 or
Yeah, council, I guess, so the roads one's definitely something we need to follow the process Brett suggested. Once we were provided advice in writing that our grant was unsuccessful, I mean, it depends to the degree we want to take this formally by council, I guess, but we could have resolved to amend our budget to delete the new bill, and that would have then automatically meant the blue bar moved down, you know, so we could have aimed that amendment because that we then had to make, well, when we adopt the budget, we say this is what we're going to do, there's no if funded in reality. Realistically, that's our budget until we decide not to do it. So if we receive funding advice that's contrary to doing it, perhaps what we need to do, self-reminder to us as elected members, is when we get that in our council information correspondence, is develop a resolution to amend the budget to remove that. So then we signify clearly to the staff, well, that is no longer a goal that you need to, you know, because in our operational plan, we'll be constructed new pool. Well, it'll be a red light, but it's not a red light because the staff are not following through. It's only a red light because we haven't got the funds. So perhaps we can take ownership of that around some of that. We can't do this flood damage stuff because of the complexities that you and I both just outlined. But for some of the easy ones, like where we're waiting, we've got it in our budget to do, the funding grant is announced, whether it's LGGSP or whatever it is, and that's not come through. We just say, right, we're canning that. Or it allows us then to make a decision, a new decision, depending on the time of year it is. Well, okay, the grant's not successful. Do we see with a revised scope of works, do we find an alternative source, or do we just scrap the project? And I think that probably feeds more than just a financial question. That helps update our reporting across a whole manner of areas. So I hadn't thought of that until you just raised it, but really, we could do a bit of this.
And we as a council setting up the operational part of it, setting a budget that says
If funded.
not even if funded, like we'll do $20 million of work because we want to do all these projects. External parties, everything lining up, we really know we can only do 17, 15. So come the end of the year, exerting everything, but
It's
we
right.
miss, but we hit, we do what we should have done, but we've got so much more in the budget.
With capital works infrastructure, we might fix every single flood damaged road, but still not spend $27 million. And we don't normally. One, you just identified, but secondly, so we might only do 75% of what we budgeted in terms of the projects themselves. But then the really big, and it's not because we're just very fiscally responsible, it's because the budgeted figure and the allocated figure really should have been two. So
We can, so going back a few years. Council's put their full wish list in the budget, and only spent much of it. They
For most,
not achieving your budgets. So then we had to remove, possibly we're going to do and not put them in the budget, just so that we weren't meeting our budget targets. So
the complexity coming works for Queensland rules in the year 1 and 2, where couldn't do anything that was already in budget. 8 years in your budget, just couldn't be in that next 12 months. This year was a rudimentary wish list of projects, and as we did the top 5, we go to the, whereas so then we dropped all of them out and went to what we did on an annual basis until this council's come in and we've tried to extrapolate what we think we're going to do.
flood damage, so that achieve 30, but achieve it.
So a couple of triggers for us to make our amendments would be when we get the receipt of that advice, but also when we do our operational plan reviews. Series of resolutions amending our operational plan and our budget, we can do it all in one whack. So we'll take that out, that out, that out. Quite a nice observation. I know it's not the right word, quite an accurate observation. Flow into your question in the next agenda item. Well, if you don't talk about either the recreation lake or...
I was just talking to you.
Unless you wanted to see whether we were a 10% chance of getting Porter Street done on time. Okay, so maybe, did you have anything else you want to point out? Progress. Report. Councillor Pickles, I'm going to allow you to remain in the room and we'll defer any discussion on any of those two items and we'll just ask you to step out again. You've declared an interest, but I would advise you that we will hold discussion on those matters until I advise you and then we can leave.
I'm comfortable with that, Mr. Mayor.
Somebody moved to receive the report. Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Gleeson. Those in favour? 7-0. Sorry, my apologies. Well, you did indicate you was going to leave a not vote, so yeah, 6-0. Right. Any particular ones that you're worried about being at 30% that you wanted to point out, Councillor Arthur?
No, it was just the general, like the percent of the year. The bigger dollar value, and then the special projects, we've only done 23.
It must have totals, mine doesn't, sorry, Councillor.
No, the second one has a total in the bottom corner. Oh, this one. 17.1 million and 49.6.
So, Mr. Mayor, obviously the flood damage is in those
Yeah,
adjusted.
appreciate that the spends won't be, like, we don't spend 25% every quarter.
This is the mention of its proceeding, direct grounds and air conditioning in Marlborough is done.
Just about completed.
50% anyway, so it wouldn't have raised an alarm. Is it going to be it's a budget outright for that, or is it going to be under budget?
Oh, it'll be smack.
Very good.
The rec park, I don't think it would be paid for the power, is it? Settings, so there's another, just still have to do those filtration work. The Crouchy Pot is, pathway's done, just needs a gone through. LED signs are done. Satellite dishes, that's only if needed. Fencing is either done or happening at the moment in Jericho.
I think they completed the
I
build.
think they're completed, yeah.
I think completed in the last couple of days.
Flood mitigation, that was spent that money.
Saving. So that's completed, 49% expended.
Flood cameras, that's TMR funding that. Mains. Check that one too, so. Solar is done. Water treatment plants, so this is the Bristow works to be done.
Other remaining work this financial year. SCADA, quick.
Yes, take it. Sewage treatment plant, that's the program. Has to be done by this financial year. Water pipeline is Jenny. Yes. Alpha Gates, I'm not sure. Hope is they were hoping for practical completion before Christmas. Yeah. Let's do some safety works on the stairs to the building certifier. You read? I mean, sorry, it's in awarded for probably not. Ash Street, sorry, Mike. Sculpture Trail.
Related to the funding above. Shopping base, email Franklin. 200, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Budget again.
Double check that one. Ash Street, that's the tender's been awarded for that. In the Ring Park. Pine Hill and Craven, so.
So Currajong Drive, is it completed, or have we still got a little bit of?
Um, Shed. And then just trying. So we did allow for, so right, so yeah, the 200 for the land, that's if the department comes back. So that is Keith's and
Same issues if we counted Linda Darmac. Size, wasn't it?
yeah, so we got over that. Close to the workshop. In Aramac, inspection, there's not a separation between toilets and the workshop shed.
Could anyone perhaps advise me what on earth that has got to do with QFS?
Roof meterage, got the shed, the workshop.
Oh, the external toilet, sorry, I was assuming you meant internal.
It's right out. It's in a little gap between two sheds.
Yeah, well, they thought, presumably that gap was the fire separation between the sheds, now we put a toilet block there, so.
And it's all metal.
So I'll be today, can keep
So
going.
I'm just,
So I get frustrated again.
Washdown Bay, Alpha.
whether there's any final works to do there.
Leavers for leavers.
Surely that's that. Filled in the pot. We're just waiting on the sculpture to take its place.
People and just waiting for them to give us a concept design and some ideas for that area.
Muttaburra Pool, that's the creek paving. So that was split between last year and this year. Under budget. Like Fox Management. The trees, I'm not sure.
Councillor, please.
Excuse me, before we go, fencing around the Barkholden Cemetery. We've discussed that at length, we've discussed that at different times. Is there anything in our next budget or to do something about a fence? Do something with the fence around the cemetery to try and keep the kangaroos out there because I know that some people like looking at them, but I feel as though there's plenty of country for a kangaroo rather than in the Vaughan Cemetery, in the cemetery in Shaden.
Yes, they were left open last week. I've checked and they've been closed since.
That's all.
Not just a general topic.
Reservoir cleaning, that's, thing, so I come out and do the whole region. Um, those costs may have just, I would say they've gone to submitted them to the government. The bursaries, that's getting advertised. Sign the agreement.
Yeah, but there's no.
Economic development, so that's money. Sculpture trail, so that's money towards just securing some of those. The brochures. But rather than put money into brochures, we're going to put that into a streetscaping.
Judy collected the last of them yesterday, so I was going to just raise it in my report about now the consultation with councillors about where they'll be paid for this week. We got the invoice yesterday after picking up the last two.
Yeah, signage and. Guard safety upgrades.
Looked at in the budget review yesterday. It's allocated to special operating, but it's actually
So we've claimed that we've claimed around 40,000 as a final payment. Council housing special maintenance, 80,000. Normal maintenance.
There's a normal way. Okay.
for them. There's two that we have quickly. Rec Park, please, Brett.
And Porter Street on
Rec Park.
the Rec Park is
Sorry, I don't know what
I
it
did
was.
talk about it.
Oh, just searching. Any questions for any?
So the Rec Park, we're waiting, there will be a bill from Ergon.
So there's a run through of it. I think we'll do what we suggested with these other, keep an eye on those completions. I do think slowly but surely we are going to get the percentage complete. Well, a lot of these projects probably doesn't equate to time, perhaps, but we still need to be mindful of those that are a long way from done. There's a lot of money to be spent, but perhaps there could be some big, like the sewage treatment plant. Councillor Arthur, any other questions?
No, I just hope that us as council aren't trying to overextend what we realistically all of that can do. Externally, look at that and go, oh, well, done, why do we?
Well, I can give you a news flash now. Some paper call by Thursday because the invoice was just received. Literally But yes, mindful of what we're setting ourselves as a realistic target.
And like there's a couple of things there. I think one was the economic development board.
I think we agreed in our first budget meeting to slash that this year.
Yes.
No,
Either no longer need, aren't going to happen. There's a revision in some of those figures for the flood damage, just so that those dollar figures and the amount of work are realistically, once we know that there's a change.
still money either way that fails to hit a target. Flood damage one, like it still needs to be wound back.
Well, grants are time or specific, maybe 2 years or 1 year.
Like because they were called back because the steps weren't safe or whatever, is that?
That variation.
They said there was a variation when we met with them that day. It was a matter of that, remember, it was just a matter of tie-off. They didn't say that there was a variation to us.
There's a gap on the side of the stairs was all of just the leak, gap. Chain netting.
Engineers and architects would make mistakes like that, but I'm wondering when the mistake that they made, who's paying for the mistake?
Anything since we're not going with.
Tie-offs up there. The assumption is you've got to think that children will want to support.
A safe assumption. All right, can somebody else, councillor Peoples, to rejoin? And then can I have somebody move to agenda item 343? Those in favour, 7-0. Right, what have we got here that's of concern? Samad? Or of note?
No big change in it to now. The timing of the grants have been received already. Elected annual shows it.
Councillors? 351. Works report. If somebody move, we receive that, please. Councillor Peoples, seconded Councillor Blunt. Those in favour? 7-0. Glad, anything new to draw our attention to?
Just want to thank the staff on Arrowneck Road. They've done a really together and joined forces. That was a really good effort. First of February, there still needs to be a couple of tanks installed, 4 tanks, a couple of plastic tanks, poly tanks, and a couple of steel tanks that need to be installed, and that will complete that part of the sewage project. System in, I'm hoping that should be complete by the end of this week. It's a good, put us on. The actual site, but it looks okay.
How's the first seal holding up on the Arrowneck Road? Pretty good still? Any up there? I'm not asking a loaded question.
Not, okay, so no, I haven't been out there, but there was an incident out there. Boss had to go out, but it wasn't on this. Just fixed it up. The next seal will be in about 3 months or so. It's a shame that someone's gone through it and ripped it up.
The next question is about water treatment. A report that was commissioned by who, but I'm going to assume council. I'll give it to you. A number of recommendations made the Alpha and Jericho water treatment plant. They weren't. One key recommendation was to evaluate the need to operate the plant at all times and recommendations around operational issues, including installation of various automation facilities. Can we see what, if any, of that report?
Is this
2013? Can we see what, if anything, was done after that report was received? And I'll forward to you later the Jericho one. It just highlights, Vlad, I guess, the issue that this council hasn't suitably addressed in the R4. Obviously, someone in 2013 was worried about it. And that report's an open source document that was provided by the council. So,
we have this document on our records?
oh, no idea. Somebody does.
Thanks, Dave. If you can have a look for
I'll forward it to you. I'll forward a digital copy of it to you.
Yeah.
But there's stuff in there that I'm still hearing about today. So, did we address it? Is what we addressed then now a dated or aged solution? I understand there's no reference made to electricity in that, so obviously it's an internal operational thing. There are causation factors behind it, but the treatment plant itself has obviously been a concern operationally for this council for a long period of time. GAQ, so they're aware of it. discussing things for a number of months and unrelated to Alpha. Understanding of what recommendations, if any, were followed from that report. No, I
Simmons
haven't
and
today.
Bristow have had got a report out, and I'll get that one out from Eric. System or not, that's a. Thank you for that.
Questions? No? 361. Can I have somebody move Damien's report, please? Councillor Peoples, seconded. Councillor Wright. 7-0. Just note down in Parks and Gardens there, the work that was conducted by the on-call staff. It was at a community event that was grounds in the town. Looked at a picture of everything was mowed. Cricket fields were all ready to go. Unfortunately, the event didn't proceed due to COVID, but well done to the staff down there for their efforts. There's a considerable number of staff, obviously, waiting to work over that period, and obviously Jericho, there was somebody stayed at work because the lawns were all mowed on the 4th when I came through, so yeah, very well done. Got the other reports, but it was just noted there by Damien, so yeah, for the crews who didn't take complete leave from the 16th through until the 17th, good on you for hanging around and helping you. Councillor, please.
What Damien can do about it. At the other end of the main street in Alpha, the persons that own the both hotels, all the backyard, all their houses and everything there, that whole corner is absolutely disgusting, overgrown. Fire hazard when the grass dries off. At the moment, the grass is 4 foot high and lush and green. Give them a little reminder that does need looking after.
So yes, we can do. I did before Christmas, went down there. Shop owner asked me to go and have a look. We walked out the back. It was all mowed. Leave it, he wanted to show me all this overgrown grass. Someone had got in and mowed it before him, so it's obviously grown back again.
Going Nelson, Jericho District Manager's report. 371, somebody Paula's report, please. Councillor Rogers, seconded Councillor Plum. Those in favour, 7-0. Paula? Questions from Paula? There is quite significant widespread, both verbal and at sites that are not properly. Then cool, and it's pretty good little free advertising, to be honest, yeah.
Mr Mayor, I'm not directing this. The Snack Shack release of Newell at the kiosk. Is there somebody privately out there got a kiosk?
Building like our toilets and kiosks.
Yes. That sufficient, councillor?
Yeah. I've got it.
Lying awake at night, councillor, please. Further questions from Paula, that won't keep me awake at night.
Was that the meeting council agreed to building, the land and building the Mudborough shed? And that came about. They voiced their concern with about the lack of consultation. In their opinion about the lack of consultation. So I apologise. Shed. But they convinced us that they were active. Told them about a new venue. Yeah, and
I can go over here if you like. I have suggested that we don't rescind the resolution at this point, would be my recommendation, but we also don't act on it, pending some further investigation. One particular issue we have is a need in Jericho for an alternative location, as with councillors who are with us. a significant grant application to be lodged next month. I've asked officers to look at whether we could procure two fit for purpose sized, and I mean fit for the size of the communities and their need. Aimed at the same thing, common multi-purpose. Still allow this sale to proceed. I haven't formed an. I just note that there's a funding opportunity there, and we may be able to, you know, we're not in open session, so don't talk dollars, but we're aware of the fact that it's not sale, and go to our smaller communities, smaller men's shed groups. And still facilitate this sale, and it could all be very cost positive for council. So there's some investigations to be underway, and we'll receive this material and thoughts around the costs associated with that before we make a decision on that grant, the LRCIP application, which has to be made in the next. So that was a strategy that I suggested last week with the CEO that may allow a minimal outcome. Any more detail on that? Because that's all I've. So perhaps we could buy 2 shed kits. Yeah, and all of that is literally a thought bubble that only eventuated in the last week. So I'm not pretending that there's been a considered approach to this, except that I've been ticking over what we do with Jericho since we visited that location. So that's where I'm at. That's where I left the CEO last week.
Basically,
Yeah, there's a variety of different things. So there are specific men's shed grants for capital equipment. So if I can give you an example, the Alpha Men's Shed secured a grant both from a men's shed only grant and a Jupiter's or a gaming machine, which allowed them to purchase their shed, allowed them to locate it on council grounds. And did we contribute the money for the cement?
Plumbing.
Yeah, that's right.
Plumbing
Plumbing and power. I don't actually think they fully constructed their shed. I think they had a grant from the men's shed for the shed, and they got a separate grant which allowed for the cementing of it. And then a number of community groups, they did some voluntary work for it, and that allowed for them to purchase the equipment, the tools. So that's how there's, and then others like Undo Sausage Sizzle. So they're a self-funded organisation in so far as that they have to raise their own money, but then they also have very dedicated, specific there's a philanthropic association shed that supports men's sheds. It's in Queensland, Australia-wide, but perhaps it's Queensland. There's considerable support there from the RFDS as well, obviously, not so much financially, but that's why. Over my suggestion, if you want to come up with something else, and I'm not suggesting that's a permanent solution, I don't even know if I support it, it's just trying to find a resolution through here.
For that shed too.
So, and to dispose of it would require going to tender, so, but we have received an offer, we do know what a prospective tenderer is prepared to purchase.
Because, if the offer's ridiculous.
I would still look at December that if the men's shed in Muttaburra is more active than what we thought it was or it does itself, then maybe a smaller, better designed and built, more modern, insulated, could be.
So that,
That's in the centre part of town. I know in some of the, I spoke about the nurses' quarters, which is,
well, they're not happy with that.
no, and it's probably not a real good fit. Ideally, it's somewhere where you can just walk to.
Just on that mean shed and vacant thing, I said this about, there's two options. One, to locate it with other facilities such as showers and toilets that the two facilities in Jericho and Muddaborough have already got. The second thing was to put it on a vacant block of land that we own, because it might, if the men's shed at some point in the future ever decided that they did completely fold, it might increase the marketability of it. I just thought from a cost establishment point of view, at the recreation grounds. There's a lot of common facilities there, showers, toilets, space, and Jericho the same. The showgrounds are there, so you've got toilets and showers can be quite close. Can I close the meeting because of the fact that we discussed the prospective tender price? I'll move that we close the meeting so that we can, for the purpose of discussing the reason that could be. Seconder. Councillor Plum, those in favour? Carried. Mr. Munn.
Mr. Mayor, has that got to be written somewhere, or is this?
I'm comfortable to direct the CEO in accordance with this resolution to not.
Process and then
Given the length and depth of phone call I had over this particular issue, I'd sooner have serious consideration for what alternative might be there before we actually released the tender documentation, to be fair.
shed
In-
for too long.
And it'd be,
Yeah.
I would still suggest it would be in order to perhaps have the documentation ready to go and at such time as we make a decision about it. Three, 8, 1, can I have somebody move Jenny's report? Councillor Arthur and Henson. Jenny, a very nice quote, and I think it was actually inadvertently picked up on by Councillor Plum this morning, who raised, is there people who checked elderly during this heat/COVID situation, and you've actually used that as your inspirational quote.
Discussing when we were doing the I do have a picture of one which I will share with you. They look amazing. They're quite tall. I was standing in a frame. They have done a really good job. So we've just got to get some information from them. But about consulting with council about placement of them. Here is we're starting at the Tree of Knowledge. We have 5 to start with at the moment. Starting at the Tree of Knowledge and spacing them, eventually hoping to get a walk all the way down to Lagoon Creek pathway. So there's somewhere as well, we've got a bit of a history trivia walk. The other thing I'd like to bring up, and I don't think it's not talking anything about construction thing, the opening of the recreation park. Over that holiday period, that was so well utilised. On the occasion that I was up there, there were that many people there. Comments have been amazing. People who have come back there who were, this is the best thing that has happened. Close to town, walking, yeah, it has been really well utilised. I have been away since, but I haven't had any bad reports. There might be little things that need tweaking and doing. Everyone's working really well together, and compliments to those people who have boats. They're giving the people who don't have boats, giving those people goes. It's just seems to be a really good thing that's happened, and yeah, I think.
Jenny, the one day that I had a bit of time out on the lake with my family, there was 3 boats there that day, counting ours, and I actually probably about 40 people skiing or actively involved. I'm sure them we have a buckle in this place. Facility, so.
You know, my family will also said, you know, when you're buying a boat.
Somebody else, but and then what really, you know, probably is the icing on the cake is it's okay, we talk about the boats and the power watercraft users and so forth, but after about 5 o'clock, the amount of people that just attended in their cars and kids down on the water and kids out in the water or just going for a walk or, you know, like so the people that weren't even utilising it for skiing related activities were there. So that was a real eye-opener for me. And of course, as I said to Sunday yesterday afternoon, there'll be a bit of a new novelty thing that may wear off, but it's a bit of a game changer for the area for sure.
And is there one thing that I was attending an appointment just before Christmas, you know, someone was just happened to be, went out there one day and started the donation rounds for the shade structure. I don't know where they're at yet, but the day I'd heard about it, substantial donations, and by the next week, there's been such a lot of proactivity out there and the benefits that they can see to it. People go up there at night time and just have their dinner. It's a credit to council for proceeding with that.
Like I said, any community facility being utilised, but especially when the costs are really low.
Borough family was there. The skiers were there and rest.
Three, 8, 2.
Can I just ask,
I'll ask any other councillor, but I cannot for the life of me see how any councillor present, unless they could possibly have a conflict of interest in this. If they're in charge, it's a budget decision of council, so therefore I think it would be considered under the old regulations, ordinary business, whatever that's now defined as. Whereas it's still-
is everyone comfortable?
Salman and Jenny.
It's as you can see, this is the sheet, any of those, just to actually get it in the budget, because I'm sure people, I ask for the fees and charges, 50% for locals.
Councillors, remember, I'd just like you to remind yourselves that this is for now. Yesterday's conversation and the one we're about to have in 20 minutes is. So, do what you want here, but bear in mind that whatever movement we have is for down the track, perhaps this is better being implemented in line with current practice, not what we're.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's very hard, and I'll just make reference to the showground facilities. People can just go in there and utilise something that's open and unlocked. So the Oval, for example, groups could just go over there at any time and hold a cricket match. So the decks would, regardless, like people going up there and having their night meals. Yeah, there's nothing much we can stop about that. It's more about the facilities that require the cleaning and everything, because the deck's used by people every day.
What if somebody wanted to have a
budget, but if you want, I can get a fee for that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a complex kind of situation. I think just having some fee there for the deck's one thing, the kitchen area is the area that we want to be mindful of the fact we've got a lot of valuable equipment in there that, we want people to be recognised to charge a fee to access. So, does anyone have an alternative fee they'd like to propose for as of? Councillor Peebles,
What's the barefoot scheme?
a month.
Championships, that'll be the February.
So will they pay 143 a day to have the whole?
This is just the canteen facility. It hasn't been proposed to us here today. There you go.
It's,
So do we add to this that any other fees for separate access arrangements be negotiated on a case-by-case basis with the CEO until the 30th of June? We're still all over the place yesterday where we're going to land. We've got I don't want to rush a decision about it that we may come to regret establishing a precedent. This is an event of state significance that's coming. The CEO with latitude to say this is what's going to cost you. Other events, would you be comfortable with that? Sorry.
James.
Well, I thought you were saying bomb.
And
So it'll be that plus.
That particular event that's coming is going to have some separate nuances as well, because some of the catering requests have been made to have locals do that. So the lake's locked down for skiing for their event, but yet there's still going to be local access for spectators slash. So anyway, let's just negotiate that if we're all comfortable. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hanson, Councillor Peoples seconds. Discussion. Over. 7-0. 9-1, can I have somebody move Angela's report? Those in favour? Gary? Hope we're starting like we finished here. Angela, would you like to direct us to anything here in particular?
3 minutes. COVID was during the peak, the week of the Australia Day events, so proactive in postponing those events to the Premier's Department about the Australia Day ambassadors as well, and hopefully that we hold, but that needs to be confirmed.
Is no stranger to us as the founder of Radio. Riley Sussex will be no stranger to you either. I was.
Mr Mayor, I got a little bit excited.
Oh, there's no doubt I'm going to miss having an hour or two with Riley Sussex in the car. He is a legend, and so is Selena. They're both very worthy recipients of host ambassadors. So I'm sincerely very hopeful that we can separately or together at some other point. We may be able to work with other community events such as school speech nights later in the year, ag shows during the year. We've got Floppy New Show. There's a number of different things that we can work with organising committees to piggyback, have them in for that event, but then use them somewhere else. Gardening competition this year is in Marlborough. So there's a whole host of things that we could potentially really maximise their usage separately, preferably. We'll see.
So we'll be proceeding with that.
Yeah, we have healthy.
Quality nominees. The number, once again, doesn't reflect the quality of the nominees. It shouldn't detract from the people who've been fortunate enough to receive. Out of the woodwork every year. It's not like that's the first year they've ever done anything.
And we work in the community. Encourage people to nominate too, yeah.
You have a couple of early ones for a change, didn't you?
I should have nominated this person, or we should have nominated this group, and so, but unfortunately,
Any other questions here?
Mr Mayor, Alpha doesn't, with
No.
their Australia Day awards, because they weren't.
They weren't having.
So the ambassador is initially tied to Australia Day.
The good news here is if we reschedule another visitation, Alpha might get something.
As soon as I got halfway through that sentence, registered.
Councillor Please.
Previous Mayor, Angela, has there been much interest with the Tree of Knowledge weekend?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have not had a single response letter that we sent to the community groups. If anything, all councillors have received any
Not a
feedback.
peak. The real world's only just coming back to work, so
Just on that, the Winton Way Out West Fest.
It's the same weekend, Mr Mayor, as the,
yes. Saw the rugby league draft draw was released during the week, so it's at this stage there's a again, so and it's the local derby again.
I just wonder if everything that's going on in Longreach, with Monday being a holiday, if it's not worthwhile shifting the race meeting to the Monday instead of the Saturday. Just, I don't know.
Discussion more about that as we go. It's in great danger. I'll let you have that discussion and advice. Following on from that is a report regarding Opera Queensland. Would you like to? Doesn't say that you think we should know, Angela?
Covers everything, but I will mention that IE Langston tonight received best numbers that I've received for a show. Yeah. Got the most numbers that we've ever had to a show.
The Opera
To like
Queensland.
yeah. We had a lot of visitors in town that weekend, that night, and also people were following the tour. And then there was people coming from who had heard about it from Beef Week and had travelled for it. So we did receive really good numbers for the performance.
Also over on the green near the race course. Originally, I think they were going to look at in front of the grandstand or the showground, or the actual oval, but
Is a
moved, didn't
Heritage Centre be a good location, or is it too small internal?
The trees depends on numbers, but just with the pond, if you could stay over on that one side, it would be okay. But they bring in their own stage, so I don't know if it would fit on the actual platform.
Just a thought, and not our facility.
Because it does, right side of the, in front of the grandstand, does that, because then you've got seating.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, that we go on the right side of the clubhouse, have the stage on the bottom, and people like tiered down from the side.
Maybe we could have a float. Oh, right.
They're gonna
but that
have the
was,
stage on the back of out the back of the, on
Yeah.
the water side.
so, on the road side. So you're looking down, yeah,
Would that be above the people?
so that'd be below, so that people will be sitting up, looking down onto the stage.
Where the road comes down and there's the car park
Looking
is
west.
3 foot high, sort of. Yeah.
Floating stage, be good, big barge. Do we support the concept? It kind of costs us $8,000 plus the support, and we will recoup ticket sales. It's cost neutral, didn't it, last time?
You learned some tonight, yes, Mr Mayor, was nearly cost neutral.
I'm a big fan of it. I think we've got to support culture of all types, you know, between art exhibition and musical events like this. I think that this is important to our community as major equine sporting type events. So, yeah, I'm happy to move that we do this. Seconded, Councillor Hunt. Favour? Three, Councillor Peoples. Approached, and we have always previously approved a support, correct? So it's come back to you. Is it? That wasn't last year, was it? Was the year before? Yep. I mean, I'm in your hands here, but I'm going to echo the exact same thoughts that I did just before. There's a substantial number of people in our community that follow the racing. This award celebrates the jockeys and trainers and legends of that sport. Whether $1,500 is what you want to do or not, but there's only a couple of local governments that support it. We're one, Isaac, Central Highlands, there's not many. It does keep us in council place.
Mr Mayor, are we supporting the races, or are we the Queensland racing, or are we supporting the venue where it comes from? Sponsoring a trophy, or what are we supporting? Because this town does not get anything out of that function at all.
The town doesn't know. We support the event to happen, so subsidising the event. It's not to be confused with anything to do with. Like they still call themselves on the bid. They have an award to celebrate the successes of
Queensland country.
people who race
It's
in
their
country.
awards night.
Yeah,
So local trainers
jockeys.
and, well, further west, north and south. It's their big awards night.
We've had our race committees nominated for awards and attend, owners and trainers, jockeys. So we've had both the alpha races here. A whole number of people have been nominated for it, some won and some haven't won, but it's about recognising their contribution. Last year,
2021, yeah.
as
You get two.
there's the award, the logo is put on the 5 or 6 different awards is handed out. It doesn't say it there, but that's what they do in practice. Everyone that sponsors gets sort of associated with one of the two. They induct a couple of Hall of Famers that might be on that.
Looking at the bottom there, you get two free tickets. I don't know who there's going to get a logo.
I don't think we've ever actually utilised the tickets.
Get a logo on the website. Would to sponsoring Springshaw in another 2 months' time would.
Plum.
Support some of these people that are lost track. Saying that we've done it for the last 2 or 3 years. Support. Especially if it keeps the country racing going in Rubafu.
Councillor Hunt.
Mr Mayor, an event such as that. The race courses, I should say. I'm happy.
Hanson.
Of course, we've got to try and keep the.
Got any other comments?
Through Mr Mayor. Be able to say what is on there, like, because I'm assuming that counts.
All hands that host race meetings either, we're distinct, so do we have the ability to customise our advertising into it? I would be surprised if the answer is no. Like we
Yeah,
could
because
make that.
we could customise that ad to be.
Social medias or whatever, and
They don't have the resources to do it for us, so they will welcome anyone who does it really. Do I have a mover? Councillor Plum moves. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Arthur. Those in favour? Against? This is motion.
Regulations to getting the funding is that they need to either have a lease or straight custom and practice, or like have the owner of the land verify that they apply for funding for different
different,
Questions?
Motion.
A different motion. As procedure, the council have to send a letter of motion and to go into the grant.
That they've got written down here, and, you know, just even we put in there's, you know, thank you to this sports club, Sports and Recreation Club, for the works and the efforts that they put in to the park so far. I just think there needs to be a little bit more there from us to give them their
Association so they could do this. So they could get their grants.
Grant body wants to see that they give the money. Facility that they use. The second part, the club has been instrumental in planning initiatives for the facility and conducting activities, probably planning initiatives and conducting activities at the facility.
But through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry. This is at the behest of
Zoom next week.
Yeah.
And relationship the council has a relationship. They're allowed to put it there, I'd say.
submission of a letter with a copy of their charter, like a little bit more of that background information, whether it's via you.
They
Charter and what they're, but evidence to us in the meeting to say, this is what we're about, we would like you to recognise that so that
Really, the grant will ask for a letter from council, which I'll have to write to say that
in the last 7 or 8, 9 or 10 and 15, 12 years at the showgrounds, we've had to put in a $1,000 fence through in the council. We've applied for the grant and we've had to get backing off the council to build on the council land. What's the difference in the rec park club?
They're going for is a gambling community grant.
That's exactly what
And
we go for.
it is asking, one of the things that in the support material is if they
This,
a lease would be they're only, yeah, so they need that or a
this wouldn't normally come to council with an established club and an established facility, but just because it's
Whether it needed as in a motion in the resolution or an emotion in a meeting because things ever come to a meeting for the rugby league to go and build a shed. It's just and then the council sign it off. So, but anyway,
because that's
I'll
historically been, there's a long history of those clubs using that facility, so only because this is all new.
And that council endorses the CEO that are in line with council's.
If they apply for 6 grants over the next 6 years, there's a high likelihood the council has to provide an individual letter for each one of those grants. So it's
verification of a relationship thing that they're asking for. I guess the grant body I would say that we probably will get a letter.
That's what we're putting it as is presented.
You said in favour?
No, I said further debate. Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Peoples. In light of the answers, and I thank the officers for their answers, before that extra material is not injurious to scheduling of time, before that is delivered, see how much of an impact it's going to have on our budget. Not being funded by the funding body because it's washed away, how much is council expected to have to pay? And that is not a road maintenance activity, that is a reconstruction. Councillor Rogers. Councillor Hanson. On today, I'm the only one stirring up all day. After receiving those responses, those carried, thank you, 7-0. Before I close, thank you, councillors, officers. Difficult decisions that have fallen to a close vote today. Some reports that were due to be received after some tense meetings previously in some areas of concern for the community. Also very cognizant of the fact that we've got officers who are incurred in situations which are challenging for them around and water assets. So the Director of Works is probably building a direction of inquiries that have perhaps this is frustration, but need not necessarily reflect on the effort. So I thank him very much for his patience and due regard in that, and I thank the officers generally. Councillors, meeting closed at 3:08.